Hey, yo, what the deal, my people? You know who it is. It's the Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you with another one. And this one is a Theon sample chapter from Winds of Winter breakdown. And I am joined, and I'm happy to say, when I did this channel and I first started doing this channel, the thing is to me was to connect with people. And this is a person that I have never spoke to, only in the chat sessions. I'm very happy to speak to and meet in person. One of the person who has supported me from day one, my man, Height Watch team member, Big James Buschell.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Buschell. I do Game of Thrones videos, and you can look up my name. But the most important thing to me is I'm here, and I'm honored to be with Tony Teflon, the Don. That's what's up.
That's what's up. I'm honored to have you here with me, man, to tell you the truth. So this is the Theon chapter, and I figured this would be a good chapter for us to do because, we both Stannis fans and all of that stuff, and it's got a lot of juicy stuff in there and everything else. So we're going to do it. We're going to go through the chapter a little bit for you, and after we go through a little bit of synopsis per part, we'll have a little bit of a discussion about that and what we took away from that. And we've broken it down into a couple of different sections because that's basically what happens. Stannis runs into a couple of different people. And the first section we have here is called the banker. So that is where we will start off with the banker. So in this chapter, we catch up with Theon. He's being held prisoner by Stannis Baratheon. He's chained to the wall at this time. Now, Theon is awoke by Stannis while Stannis is screaming on this Braavosi banker, Tyto Nestoris. Now, they have come to an agreement that Stannis is to pay all the debt that is owed to the Iron Throne, and that's all the debt from Robert all the way to Joffrey. And if he does this, they have agreed to back his campaign. James.
Your Grace, a second voice said softly. Pardon, but your ink has frozen. The Braavosi, Theon knew. What was his name? Tycho something? Perhaps a bit of heat. I know a quicker way. Stannis drew his dagger. For an instant, Theon thought he meant to stab the banker. You will never get a drop of blood from that one, my lord, he might have told him. The king laid the blade of the knife against the ball of his left thumb and slashed. There. I will sign in my own blood. That ought to make you maesters happy. If it please your grace, it will please the Iron Bank. Stannis dripped a quill in the blood welling from his thumb and scratched his name across the piece of parchment. You will depart today. Lord Bolton may be on us soon. I will not have you caught up in the fighting.
Now, Stannis at this time we see is preparing for the battle versus the Boltons, and he plans on sending the banker back to the war. Now, when he does this, he tells the guard to tell the banker that he needs Justin Massey. Now, Stannis then calls for the maester, and he grabs a piece of paper that is sealed with black wax, and he reads it again. Now, at this time, Stannis realized for the first time that Theon is awake, and he tells Theon that Morris Crowfoot is the reason why Theon is alive, and he saved them after him and Jane jumped. Now, Morris Crowfoot is in the room at this time, and he's calling Theon Turncloak and saying all these things. Then he sees Jane, and they're not sure if Jane really is Arya, so Morris Crowfoot begins to question Arya, or Jane, to see if she's Arya. James.
But Umber had looked at the girl closely, squinting down with one good eye. You are the younger daughter? And Jane nodded. Arya. My name is Arya. Arya of Winterfell, I. When last I was inside those walls, your cook served us steak and kidney pie, made with ale, I think. Best I ever tasted. What was his name, the cook? Gage, Jane said at once. He was a good cook. He would make lemon cakes for Sansa whenever we had lemons. Crowfoot had fingered his beard. Dead now, I suppose. That smith of yours as well, a man who knew his steel. What was his name? Jane had hesitated. Micken, Theon thought. His name was Micken. The castle blacksmith had never made any lemon cakes for Sansa, which made him far less important than the castle cook in the sweet little world she had shared with her friend Jane Poole. Remember, damn you, your father was a steward. He had charge of the whole household. The smith's name was Micken. Micken. I had him put to death before me. Micken, Jane said. More Umber had grunted, aye. What he might have said or done next, Theon never learned, for that was when the boy ran up, clutching a spear and shouting that the portcullis on Winterfell's main gate was rising. and how Crowfoot had grinned at that.
So that's basically what we could take away from that first section there, right there. So that's how the first section works its way. The banker with Stannis Baratheon and Theon being held out there. So the first thing I take away from that is that, you know, Stannis was able to get the wax, the paper, the black seal paper, and that is what Stannis gets from Jon, and that is what reveals Stannis of the karstarks treachery going on there. Also like the fact that, you know, we see Stannis's dry sense of humor when he talks about Theon says in one part, he's like, oh, we flew, and Stannis is like, no, you fell. You didn't. You know, that's what happened. You know what I mean? And we get a lot of that sense of humor from Stannis going throughout this whole chapter, and I like that. Also, another crazy part about this is that most Crowfoot Umber reminds Theon of Euron. He compares him to Euron with the eye patch. And we get that line about him saying the black eye shining with malice when he was referring to Euron.
And we also just can see how much of a badass Stannis is. I mean, you know, pulling out the knife, cutting his thumb. I don't need no ink, you know, just how Stannis is. Exactly.
That's why when you see these things that Dan and Dave has done to this man, that it's kind of disgusting. It's when you see a guy, it's like that, you know, he's the way he's really supposed to be portrayed in the show. That's why it's hard for me from reading this chapter to see how he's going to die. Well, we'll get into that later at this Battle of Ice. But also, what we see here, also during that part, we see that, you know, Stannis basically tells Theon already that, you know, he's going to kill him. And Theon really isn't afraid to die. He's basically, at this point in his life, he's just tired. It seems like he just wants to sleep. He just wants to get rid of everything because he confesses to cutting off the killing the boys, even though he didn't do it, because he just wants to get it done before Ramsay gets there. And at that particular time, you see he turns back into Reek for a second when he has a thought of Ramsay, but then he pulls back and gets back into his Theon mode.
Mm-hmm.
So the next part of this chapter is broken down basically to the maester, the part where the maester comes and visits Stannis Baratheon. Now remember, Stannis knows of what's going on because of this piece of paper, and now he is questioning the maester. Now the maester is brought back by the Knight of Moss, and that is to answer towards Stannis. Now the maester's name is Tybolt. I can't, like Tidy Bowl or something. I can't pronounce these names. Goddamn, even though I have the audiobooks, I still can't pronounce them. And then he is a maester of the Dreadfort. All right, and he said that he was brought there by the karstarks to tend to his wounded, but also tend to his ravens. Now this is the time that the two ravens are brought into the room. Now Stannis gets the maester to admit that he sent the Boltons a map, and he realizes at this time that the Boltons know his position. James?
How many eyes does a maester need to read a letter? Asked Stannis. One should suffice, I think. I would not wish to leave you unable to fulfill your duties to your lord. Roose Bolton's men may well be on their way to attack us even now. However, so you must understand if I skimp on certain courtesies. I will ask you once again, what was in the message you sent to Winterfell? The maester quivered. Map, your grace.
Right after that, he asked the maester to be taken away, but he says that the ravens should be left with him. And then he has the Karstark men rounded up, and he tells Justin Massey that he has to go to the wall with the banker. Justin Massey doesn't want to do it. He says he has to go with Jane Poole and also take Alysanne Mormont with him, so she has an escort. Now, when Justin Massey loses the room, Theon notices at this particular time that it's more whiter than black outside. So winter has just started to snow really heavy at this time. And then at this particular time when they're alone, this is the time that Stannis questions Theon about how many troops the Boltons have. James?
5,000. 6 more. He gave the king a ghastly grin, all shattered teeth and splinters. More than you. How many of those does he like to send against us? No more than half. That was a guess, admittedly, but it felt right to him. Roose Bolton was not a man to blunder blindly out into the snow, map or no. He would hold his main strength in reserve, keep his best men with him, trust in Winterfell's massive double wall. The castle was too crowded. Men were at each other's throats, the Manderleys and Freys especially. It's them his lordship sent after you, the ones that he'd well rid of.
Yeah, so right then, Theon tells Stannis that they will never combine their strength, and that they will come separately, and then after that, Ramsay will come and bring up the rear. And he says the line right there that we hear that almost sounds like the pink letter, that he wants his bride back, he wants his reek. And Theon tells Stannis that Ramsay is the one Stannis should fear. And then basically at this time, Stannis just disses him for saying that. James?
I defeated your uncle Victarion and his Iron Fleet off Fair Isle, the first time your father crowned himself. I held Storm's End against the power of the Reach for a year and took Dragonstone from the Targaryens. I smashed Mance Rayder at the wall, though he had 20 times my numbers. Tell me, Turncloak, what battles has the bastard of Bolton ever won that I should fear him?
And this time, right now, is the first time that we hear a crow talk. Theon says, "You don't know him." And then Stannis says, "No more than he knows me." And then the bird says, "Knows me." And that is basically how the Maester's parts end. So there's a lot of interesting things here, James, that happens in this particular part with the Maester. You want to pick up on any part that you want to talk about?
Well, once again, we see the effect that Stannis has on other people, especially people that have maybe less intestinal fortitude. I mean, he makes the Maester piss himself. How many other people can say that they can do that, you know?
Exactly.
So once again, we see the badassery that is Stannis.
Exactly. In this chapter, we also we learn basically how ravens fly. We learn that a raven flies right back to its home. Nothing special about it. It's like a homing pigeon. It knows where to go. It goes back home. And we know that he talks about there are special types of ravens. Well, there used to be special type of ravens that 1 in every 100 years is born, but those ravens aren't the ones that he has right there. But we know that they really are those ravens that are born 1 every 100 years. And also, when we get to this right here and we hear everything that has taken part so far, we have to also talk about the pink letter, because that's what this goes down into. So at this time, we have a couple of things that if Stannis did write the pink letter, we have 3 things already that has pointed to this direction. Number 1, we have the Maester from the Dreadfort. So we could assume that since he is from the Dreadfort, it is possible that Stannis could have pink wax to make a pink smear. We have the line by Theon. He wants his bride back. He wants his reek. So Stannis would know to put that in the pink letter. That is almost verbatim what the pink letter is. And then we have the overlooked fact that Justin Massey is told that Stannis may hear that he is dead. And if he does hear that he is dead, to continue on with the plan. And the fact that he says that, I believe, is because he knows Justin Massey is going to hear that, because he knows that letter is going to the wall. And for Justin Massey to keep doing what he's doing. And it's the people that he tells Justin Massey to get is interesting, because he tells Justin Massey to get 20,000 sellswords. And then he says specifically that he wants a lot of bowmen. And then he wants them brought through Eastwatch. All right. And then Justin at this particular time wants to take Yara Greyjoy. But Stannis is not trying to hear any of that. You remember that part, James?
Yeah, well, we know that Justin Massey's a knight from House Massey and a Queen's man, and he once squired for Robert Baratheon, where it is said he acquired his appetite for women. And we also know that, I believe in certain parts in Dance, you know, he has interaction with Asha. He gets he essentially wants her for himself.
Yeah, he wants some Iron Islands for himself.
Yeah.
That's all he wants. He was trying to, in the other chapter, what was that? The sacrifice. He was trying to stand up to her, and then that one guy like bitched him out and stuff. Yeah. And it kind of didn't impress her, but she was all about, I'll rub up on this guy if this guy's going to keep me safe. I'm all about that, you know what I mean, and everything else. So she was trying to play that role with him, So. It's also here that we also hear a reason that, that Stannis possibly could die. Stannis is being pretty stubborn here. You know, when he has the conversation with Justin Maston tells him to flee, but Stannis says right then, you know, you told me to flee at the Blackwater, and I'm never going to flee again. And then he talks about Bittersteel, and he also talks about Viserys being the Beggar King. And so, you know, that could be a reason that if the show is true, this could be a reason how Stannis could actually lose the Battle of Ice. It's possible stubbornness alone and not being willing to flee when it comes down to it. Even though, from what I see, I just don't see how it's possible, because we know Stannis knows the plan of attack, because Theon told some of these dudes how they're exactly going to attack. He knows the Freys and Mandalay aren't getting along, but at this time he still thinks the Mandalays killed Davos. And I think that me personally, I think one of the best lines in the whole books ever by any character is said by Stannis right there, the one with the fat lord. Do you know what that line is, James?
The Lord Too Fat to Sit a Horse.
Yeah. I like that one. That line. He's like, I think it says like, Lord Too Fat to sit a horse, too fat to come to me, too fat to bend the knee and swear me his sword, or something like that. So yeah, I think that was, you know, Stannis, man. Stannis the funniest dude in all this show. I don't care anybody says. I think Stannis is the funniest cat in all of these books, man. That dude is hilarious and stuff. So there we also go on.
I was just saying I agree with you, and I wish they would have captured that more on the show, as opposed to just making them, you know, dour all the time.
And I don't understand why they would do that either. You know, they make Tyrion this whole big nice guy in the show, and they got Tyrion smiling around and stuff. You know, even though they don't have him doing cartwheels and stuff like he does in the book or everything. You know, but you know they don't have the mean Tyrion, the meanness in him at all. You know, they just got this guy just so liked and they're just like so afraid to make him mean, it seems like, you know. And then they take Stannis, a guy who has, I mean, he has a bit of personality here. You hear it and stuff in his jokes and his wit, but they never want to show that. They just want to show him being this hard ass dude who's going around burning people, and it's not that. He's much more than that. You know what I mean? But I guess that's just their prerogative to do it the way they want to do it.
Yep.
So at that time, the first time we hear the Raven in the cage say something, knows me. And we know that will come into play later on down the line. So the next part we have here is basically Stannis versus the karstarks. Now, Stannis has Arnulf and his son Arthur and his 3 grandsons arrested and plans to execute them. Now, Theon remembers seeing them eating with Horsebane, Umber, and Ramsay. So at this particular time, the bird screams. There are no chairs. 12 dozen knights come through the door, and they are about to come in there and stand over these dudes. Now, Stannis tells them straight up that your death is going to be, it's on. You're not getting away with this. You're dead, period. Now, whether it's going to be a swift death by beheading or fire, it all depends on you and your willingness to confess. Now, at that particular time, the dumb, stupid-ass grandson, he tries to go for his sword, and he gets his forearm cut right off. And then the other one, brother, gets stabbed in the stomach and starts squealing like a little pig. And then at that time, he talks to Theon, and he tells him that he talks to Theon, and he hears Theon tell him that Morse Umber only has little boys outside of Winterfell, and that he's using pits for traps. And in these pits, that is how Aenys broke his neck. And then at that time, and Aenys broke his neck, and Holstein just lost his horse. And that's when Stannis says this about Bolton. James.
Bolton has blundered, the king declared. All he had to do was sit inside his castle whilst we starve. Instead, he has sent some portion of his strength forth to give us battle. His knights will be horsed. Ours must fight afoot. His men will be well nourished. Ours go into battle with empty bellies. It makes no matter. Sir Stupid, Lord Too Fat, the bastard, let them come. We hold the ground. And that I mean to turn to our advantage. The ground, said Theon. What ground? Here? This misbegotten tower? This wretched little village? You have no high ground here, no walls to hide beyond, no natural defenses. Yet, both ravens screamed in unison. Then one quirked and the other muttered, tree, tree, tree.
So right here, Stannis then is told that the karstarks men are in custody. They were taken to the long hall. Treason is in the air, and all the people are all going crazy in there, and they don't know who to trust, and Stannis has to deal with that, he says. But before he deals like that, he wants to deal with the Greyjoy chick. So let's talk about this. And this basically is about the Battle of Ice, what we just heard everything go down there. So it's basically dealing with the Battle of Ice. So this is not a Battle of Ice video. History of Westeros did a phenomenal job with Brendan Beefus. I think they did 3 episodes on it, 2 hours a pop. So if you want a fully in-depth thing about the Battle of Ice, you should check that out. I did a little quick thing on the Battle of Ice. You could check that out using Sun Tzu thing. So James, the Battle of Ice, how do you think that plays out? Is it going to be like it was on the show, or you think it's going to be different?
Well, I used to believe that Stannis would win the Battle of Ice. He's the superior military mind. He has the holes drilled in the lake. I thought he was going to draw the forces in and they'd all fall. But, you know, the show has kind of made me question some things. But I hope that Stannis will win the Battle of Ice in the books. And I'm assuming you still think the same way, right?
Yeah, it's hard for me to see how he's going to lose this battle. You know, everything that we hear right here, he's going to use the ground for his defense. So we know he's got the holes in the ground for this situation. All the people have been drilling the holes for the lake and they fished it out. These guys are horsed. And even in the show, when they did fight and the Boltons fought them, it was basically the Boltons mounted cavalry that beats them. So if you see that mounted cavalry, if that's what it's going to be and they're attacking them on, he's got the 2 lakes. These guys don't know the lay of the land. They're not from the north. The Frey people are going to come first. So it's most likely they're going to head towards the beacon light. They got the light shining. It's just pointed out that there's nothing you can't see 5 feet in front of you. It's all white outside. It's basically a whiteout. So all they're going to see is that beacon fire. And from the way that they're charging the village, from the Cross's village, there's no way for them to come. They're going to come across that lake towards the weirwood tree around that area. If they do that, there's no way that they could take the weight. They would have to fall into the lake. So I just don't know how it's possible. Only way I could see Stannis losing this, somehow he attacks Mandalay, because he still thinks that Mandalay at that time has killed Davos. So that's the only way. If somehow he fucks up, he attacks Mandalay, gets into a fight with them somehow, but I just don't see it being possible. But the show had him die, so it just makes me believe that we're missing something here. I don't know what we're missing, but I just don't see it. I really don't see how he's gonna lose.
I was gonna ask you, like, what do you think Stannis is going to do to Wyman Manderley, since, you know, he doesn't know that he sent Davos to Skagos, and he thinks he killed his, you know, his second in command. You would think that Stannis would, you know, want to kill him. So
yeah,
I'm not, you know.
Yeah, he definitely wants to kill it, dude. That's why I'm hoping that the Freys are going to come first. Mandalay said in that one chapter that we're not afraid to follow you, host, and lead the way. We'll be right behind you. And so from that, I would think that it means that the Frey is definitely going to come first. I would think that Mandalay would sneak up on them and start attacking them. And if he sees that and Stannis sees him attack him, he'll realize they're on his side and won't attack him. And then, you know what I mean? That's what I would hope. But who knows? I don't know, because the fact that they killed Stannis right then is a crazy situation. Another crazy situation I had thought about is that I know Lady Stoneheart is not in the show and not casted, but I thought of a crazy tinfoil thing, and this is definitely tinfoil. I do not believe it will happen in the show at all, but I thought it could happen and they could make it work. You could have Stannis right then, if he had gotten killed by Brienne. Brienne walks away, and then out of nowhere, you could have Thoros Amir come up there, because we know that he could have been coming to back up Stannis. We know he's down with the Lord of Light, find Stannis's body, and resurrect Stannis and make Stannis Stoneheart. Right there. And he
That'd be
could
awesome.
be Stannis Stoneheart. It could work. I mean, they could do it in the show. It fits. I don't think they would, but I think it would be a great thing for Stannis if they're not going to have him in it any other way. Bring him back as Stoneheart and he would have the same beef with the same people that she has. It could end the same exact way. He could go back after Brienne because Brienne killed him, so he'd have reason to grab Brienne up and everything else. So it would all fit. They could do it, but I don't think they would. But that's just some tinfoil shit I'm talking. Just doing there real quick.
Hey, I'm on board with that.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know. When looking at everything that happened right here with the chapter and going on with the winter, how it is possible for Stannis to lose the Battle of Winter. I don't know how. I really don't know how. If someone in the chat section can figure out a way, from the way I see it right there, I have no idea exactly how he's going to win it. So the last thing that happens in this chapter is Stannis asks for Yara Greyjoy, Asha Greyjoy. I don't know what we want to call her. Let's just say Greyjoy. He asked for her. So Stannis also has plans to have Theon executed. Now, hoping that this will give him favor with all the people that are out there just about mutiny. Now, wait a second, James. Now, we do hear, just like I said right there, that people are mutiny on Stannis, right? Are very mad about their mutiny. We did see people mutiny in the show. So could it be that Stannis may lose the Battle of Ice because he gets attacked by his own people or from within, or those people leave? And we also seen that the snow was getting deeper. So I don't know. I just don't know how it's possible, but maybe that's a certain way. But at that particular time, Stannis is trying to gain favor with the northern people he's running with. So in order to get justice for Bran and Rickon, he says he's going to execute Theon. Now, Asha, she sees Theon. She doesn't recognize him when she sees him, and this dude just spills his guts right then about everything that's happened to him. He tells them about the spearwives, about Abel. He goes, the spearwives who weren't spearwives, and about Abel. He tells about the old gods, and he tells her that the old gods, he heard them say the name, and he says that there was no wind, but the leaves were moving. All right. And then at that time, Asha Greyjoy tries to convince Stannis to execute Theon. First, she tries to buy him off her, and he doesn't have none of that. And then she says, execute him in front of the weirwood tree, just like Lord Stark would. James.
Theon is my mother's last surviving son. When his brothers died, it shattered her. His death will crush what remains of her, but I have not come to beg you for his life. Wise. I am sorry for your mother, but I do not spare the lives of turncloaks. This one especially. He slew 2 sons of Eddard Stark. Every Northman in my service would abandon me if I showed him any clemency. Your brother must die. Then do the deed yourself, your grace. The chill in Asha's voice made Theon shiver in his chains. Take him out across the lake to the islet where the weirwood grows and strike his head off with that sorceress sword you bear. That is how Eddard Stark would have done it. Theon slew Lord Eddard's son. Give him to Lord Eddard's gods. The old gods of the north, give him to the tree. And suddenly there came a wild thumping. As the maester's ravens hopped and flapped inside their cages, their black feathers flying as they beat against the bars with loud and raucous caws. The tree, one squawked, the tree, whilst the second screamed only, Theon, Theon, Theon. Theon Greyjoy smiled. They know my name, he thought.
Mm-hmm. And that is basically how this chapter ends. So, James, what is going on with these goddamn ravens? And why is Theon's sister asking to execute her own brother? Didn't she say that she needed him for the king's moot?
Well, I believe, I've heard this. I think I heard it the first time I heard it, I believe, was actually from you when you broke down the chapter before with the crows being Bloodraven and Bran warging the crows. I mean, they know his name. They I don't know why they want him. You know, do they want his king's blood? I don't know. Like, get him executed in front of the tree. I don't know if they I don't know exactly what they want with Theon. Perhaps you could shed some light on that. But I myself don't actually know what they want with Theon.
Yeah, well, so I wish I had the picture. I could push it up right here. But there was a picture by Brendan B. Fish Rivers, and he had a layout of the Crossters village. And from what you could see, it seems like the weirwood tree is on a little island by itself in the lake. Now, let's look at the worst case scenario if Stannis is going to die. So if Stannis is going to die, is Arsha trying to set Stannis up to die? Does Stannis go out there and he's the one, the victim, who falls into the lake by the weirwood tree, and somehow her and her brother stand by the weirwood tree, and when the battle happens, they are safe or able to escape? Somehow Bran helps them or saves them that way. But it all goes down to Bran and them and those crows. Now the crows have spoke 8 times. No, I think 9 times they speak in this book. And the first, I think 4 times that they speak, I believe, or it's Blood Raven. So the first time it's knows me, and that's Blood Raven. And then the second time the bird speaks, the bird says there are no chairs. And that's crazy, because the bird says that when he sees Arnulf Karstark looking for a seat, and the bird says there are no chairs. So the bird here, you can see, is observing everything in the room and knows exactly what's going on, you know, which is crazy. So I believe this bird still speaking is Blood Raven. The third time, the bird says not long, still Blood Raven. The 4th time, he says yet. The 5th time, tree. And then after that, Theon is spoke. And when Theon is spoke, that is the time I think Bran is the other bird. The next time, the 6th time it speaks, it says tree again. The 7th time, which is Blood Raven by himself, is Theon, which I believe is Bran. And the 8th time, it's the tree. And then the 9th time is Theon. That's the last time, and that is Bran. Because we know that it has to be Bran doing it, because Theon says when he heard the tree speak to him, there was no wind, but the leaves were moving. And we know that, and it was just a whisper, but he heard his name. So this is the way I see it. Now, I did a couple of videos, how A Song of Ice and Fire will end. And there's a reason why I picked this chapter to do this with James. It all leads back to those videos into this. And I believe that Asha, seeing the fact that she was very devastated watching people get burned. When you see that sacrifice chapter, you could see that she was just didn't even want to look at it. I don't think that she wants her brother to go out like that. I think at this particular time, she just thinks that there's no saving this dude at all. So I think that she's like, he's going to die. I'd rather him die quick. Now, whether it's something else going on with Asha, why she's saying bring him to the weirwood tree, I don't know. But she is saying bring him out there. And I think that the birds are going crazy, because I believe that they want the king's blood. And I think that the king's blood of Theon could help nourish either Blood Raven and bring this dude back to life, because this dude is withering away. And I think it's because of the direct effect that there's no sacrifice to him. And we got to remember that it was the Grey King, which was a Greyjoy, that killed Yig, the demon tree. So this would be a Greyjoy being sacrificed to Yig and getting the blood back that he was killed from. So that's what I think. Now, whether or not that helps resurrect Jon Snow, or they use that to do that, I think I heard that the Jon Snow thing from, who said the Jon Snow thing? I heard the Jon Snow that someone thought that the blood sacrifice of Theon would be able to use used to bring back Jon Snow. I don't know if that's the case. If that is a plausible and a very good theory too, that could be happening. But I think it's more to power Blood Raven up, and he wants the blood himself to bring himself back to life, to get himself some energy.
Just a thought. Do you think it's possible that Bloodraven perhaps implanted the thought into Asha's head to try and convince Stannis to get him to the tree?
You know, I heard someone say something like that. They said that it seems like Asha's voice changes during it when he does that at that particular part. So I don't think that Bloodraven has the ability to take over people. I don't think he's strong enough to do it. In fact, I don't think that anyone Green Seer has been strong enough to do that. But Bran is the only one who's ever been able to do it. And I think that when you see the Vlad Sixton's chapter, and you see that Vlad tries to do it, take over that woman, and she fights him back. When she fights him back and she rips her face, it's like a bloody weirwood tree. And I think that right there is a key, that's something that Bloodraven wants to do, but he doesn't have the strength to do it.
See, I was thinking maybe like, you know, remember how he gave Jojen the dreams of like when Theon was going to capture Winterfell, of like the water sweeping over the walls. And so I thought maybe like, you know, maybe he implanted a dream in her head or something. I don't know. Just a little crackpot, you know.
Yeah, I could see him planting a dream, but not taking over her and making those words come out of her mouth. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if somehow, I just think that it's more feasible that, because she was devastated when that dude got sacrificed. She didn't want to look at it. And they specifically pointed it out in the chapter that she's seen dudes get jigged up and stabbed up, and she's seen people die before. But just to see someone get burned, she just wasn't, you know, it was hard for her to even deal with that situation. So I think it's maybe that she don't want to see a little baby brother. She see her talking about her mom and stuff get burnt. And maybe she's like, this dude's head chopped off. Now, those birds want him there. And I think it's Bloodraven. I think that Bloodraven wants his blood, because, I mean, if you look at that chapter, right, when you in the chapter and you see Bran when he's down there, right, with the children, and I have a video coming out. I shouldn't say it'll be in that video too. So this is just a little tease for the next How a Song of Ice and Fire will end video, which would be Children of the Forest. When you see Bran down there and he's walking, right, he sees a bunch of weirwood thrones, right, a bunch of them, of Green Seers, right? And he's like, they're dead. But when they walk by him, their eyes follow him, right? So this dude's not the last Green Seer, because you see there's other Green Seers sitting right there that aren't dead yet, but they're clinging on to life. They're just about dead. You know what I mean? But they're being held in that chamber. And this is when he's in Hodor and he sneaks off into that chamber and he walks around and he sees it. You know what I mean? And he's not supposed to be down there. So there's these other Green Seers sitting in their little weirwood trees, hanging on to life, separated from everyone. They didn't want Bran to see that. And I think that's what's going on with Bloodraven. He's just hanging on to life. And they're just using Bran to get that power to take over people, because they cannot do that themselves. Because you got to understand, you know, Bloodraven, he's got that goddamn egg up there. You know what I mean? He's got the egg sitting there. It's in the wall, most likely. What's that egg there for? I mean, Bloodraven is the North person mixed with a Targaryen. If that egg turns into an ice dragon, Bloodraven could ride that ice dragon if he had enough energy and strength to do it. Or if he was able to take over the body of Jon Snow.
For sure. And I wish, I was just thinking, because I forgot about that scene. I forgot how creepy that was. Wish we would have got that.
Yeah, so
it's almost like a horror movie.
It is like a horror movie. George R. R. Martin, he writes a whole bunch of different genres and stuff, and sticks a whole bunch of different things in there. So it makes this book series so great. Yeah, so basically it's hard to see exactly what's going to happen, but that's why I think that part's going on right there. So do you think that Theon dies, or do you think he survives this?
You know, no, I don't know if we can talk like leaks or anything.
You can talk anything you want. It's my channel, and you can do what you want to.
Well, I mean, I know you saw that the leaks, like that they have Theon going back to the Iron Islands. So I don't know if that's some kind of spoiler, but if it is, the only way I see Theon making it back to the Iron Islands in this show is either he somehow escaped or Stannis died. Because if Stannis is alive, there's no way Theon is going to live.
Exactly.
So,
and those northern men there too. They all want Theon dead too. So they all have to get defeated for Theon to live, you know? And the thing is, the whole reason of the King's Moot of having it annulled is Theon has to be alive for that to happen.
mm-hmm.
But it seems like right now, Theon is in the position where he's ready to give up. He's ready to die. And he's ready to not be, just sacrifice himself for a better cause. It's hard. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it out of it. I don't see how he can make it out of it unless somehow he gets on that island. And as I said, everything crashes around them. And somehow they just find some respite by standing on that island over there while the battle is raging. They could just sneak off something like that. But that's the only way. If not, I think he gets his head chopped off right there on the island, and that ends Theon's character.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is, D&D just loved the character so much that they're just going to keep him alive, just because that's what they want to do. And they'll figure something out for him. So,
yeah, they could.
I don't know.
It's hard. Those dudes would just do whatever they want to do with anyone. Look what they did for Bran. They stretched that dude, made him a star. He's none of that in the book. So, but it's a very, very hard thing to say what's going to happen to Theon Greyjoy at that point. But if I had to put money on it, I would just have to say that he survives somehow. He has to. Somehow Stannis has to lose. I don't know how he loses, but he has to lose. That's the way they have it in the show. And I don't see it, but he has. Something's got it that we're overlooking, that he's going to lose somehow. And that's going to be it. And it's going to be Jon, because we're talking about these leaks. So we see Jon in this Winterfell armor. All right. So we know that Melisandre said that she's seen the Bolton banners burning. And obviously that's going to happen when she gets there with Jon. That's when the Bolton banners will get ripped down. I mean, all that leak shit that came out, me personally, I agree. I think that shit is 95% on. It sounds right on. And I think that may be how the whole series goes this year from that leak.
See, I was in the same boat as you. I was like 99% confident that Stannis was going to win the Battle of Ice. And this season happened. I don't even know what to think anymore, man.
It's hard. I mean, everything points to him winning the Battle of Ice. That makes me think now maybe he won't, because maybe it's too obvious that he's going to win. But, and why make him lose so much? You make him lose in Blackwater. I would think you'd give him at least one victory in this series, something. You know what I mean? You give him one thing. I mean, the Mance Raider wildling thing at the wall, that's not enough. At least you would think they give the man one big victory or something. And especially to Ramsay. This is a guy who has no military skill. He has no fighting ability whatsoever. I mean, he's how are you going to lose to this punk? If you make him lose, he should lose to someone like, Mace Tyrell. Or, he should lose to someone like that, or Randall Tarley. Or he should lose to someone like that. Should be not damn Ramsay Bolton. This bitch who hunts women down with dogs. He shouldn't lose to no punk like that. You know what I mean? And that's just something. That's what pisses me off the most about it. But there has to be something that we're missing. But from everything I've seen, he's going to win this battle. But if he wins this battle, then what happens? Say he wins this battle. Theon has to die then. Theon's dead. Then what happens to Asha? He still has her captive. Then he marches on Winterfell and then loses then, or he gets in. I always thought that if he wins this battle, it turns into some a Trojan horse situation where he dresses up in the Freyja's armor. They act like he's dead. They put someone in his armor, carry the body back into Winterfell, and then they all break up, pull out the swords, grab these dudes up, and then that's how they deal with the Boltons. I always thought that's how it was going to go down. But it doesn't seem like it's going to go down like that. Or maybe it does, and these dudes, Dan and Dave, didn't want to give Stannis that shine. Maybe Jon in the book is going to be in Ghost for a longer time than they're going to have him in Ghost on the show. So they have nothing for Jon to do, so they say, hey, let's give Jon the Battle of Ice and the Siege of Winterfell. And in the books at that time, it would be Stannis doing those things. Jon would still be in Ghost, but that would make boring TV. So they say, hey, Stannis is going to die later anyway. Let's just get him out of here right now and give all that stuff to Jon, help build Jon, make him even more of a hero.
So in that scenario, then, how would you see Stannis dying in the future?
If he, well, I think just like I said, his arrogance that they're showing, that he shows in this thing, that he's not retreating no matter what. He refuses to retreat. He's not going to do it no matter what. And I think maybe somehow he has to be overconfident in something and just go. And we see that in the show. When he sees all the guys around him, he doesn't try to retreat. He just sighs, grabs his sword and pulls it up and sends him and all of his men to their deaths. You know, maybe he could have jumped on a horse or something. Well, he didn't have no horses. You know, those dudes just trooped it all the way there. So I don't know. Maybe he could have tried to run or something, but he wasn't trying to run. So maybe it's his arrogance or it's just his stubbornness that he's just not going to run again no matter what, that eventually will get him killed. So, but I don't think it's going to Brienne. I don't see how Brienne even runs into Stannis again to kill him in the books.
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
I don't see how it's as she's even comes into play any way that she's around and that she is the one that kills this man. I do not see that whatsoever. So I don't know how that's going to happen. But I'd rather it be Brienne than Ramsay Bolton. Much rather.
Yeah, well, the ideal situation for me would be like, you know, they're sitting in Winterfell, it's being surrounded by the others, and he's going to go down, you know, go down with the ship, last man standing.
Yeah, that would be great if he went out like that. But I don't even think he's going to see an other now, the way they got in the show. I don't think he's going to have anything to do with it. You know, I think it's just a wrap for him. I mean, and also it brings into play the whole thing, what's going on in Winterfell. It's Mance Rayder. I mean, he's not captive. He's not dead. I think he's still in there somehow. He's still in there. You know what I mean? So that brings all that into play. So if Stannis defeats Ramsay and them, goes in there dressed in the freight armor, Mance Rayder's in there playing music like always, and he jumps out and says he's on Stannis' side too and everything else. Then Jon Snow gets resurrected and comes down. The wall gets broken open. And then the White Walkers come through while they're all in Winterfell. They hear the wall come down. He's with Jon Snow. And then Jon Snow makes his way down into the crypts and grabs up Lightbringer. And then you go from there.
Now, I'm like you've heard the Richard III Stannis comparisons?
Yes.
Yeah. So you think, does that, like, because you know, like how Richard III died was he died in battle, but he was like betrayed, and he screamed, like he was screaming traitor, traitor, traitor when he died. So maybe it is an inside job to end Stannis if he's truly based on Richard III.
It's quite possible, you know. So what we could see from the show that they have in the books that they've gotten right is that we see that there's mutiny inside. People are upset about Stannis, and he has to handle that. But then before he handles that, he talks to the Greyjoy chick, and he's trying to burn somebody, and that the weather has picked up significantly. So is it Theon that he burns and not his daughter? They did in the show. Is he the one that gets burned? He burns Theon, then they say that's horrible, and then they mutiny and they leave him for that. But he has, I don't know. I can't see the North people getting mad if they burn Theon. They want Theon dead, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Nah, so it can't go down like that. I don't know. It's hard to go down. It's hard to go down. Can you see the chat room?
Yes.
No.
I can.
Does anybody in the chat room have any idea how Stannis Baratheon gets out of the situation in the Battle of Ice with his life?
Yeah, if anyone has anything to add, go for it.
Yeah. So anyway, we will also at this particular time, if there are any questions inside of the chat room, James, I cannot see it. If you see anything in there you wish to say, we could take questions at this particular time also.
All right, let me see here. Or if anyone wants to start leaving some questions, go for it. Let's see here. A lot of people think that Stannis. Well, this one, King Stannis Baratheon, of course, thinks that Stannis will kick the Bolton's ass. I wouldn't expect anything less from King Stannis Baratheon.
Yeah, I gotta agree with him. I don't know how he loses, but it seems like he does.
Let's see. No, I'm not seeing too many questions here. Let me go back up to the top.
No questions. That's all right if they don't have anything to say.
Let's see. Yeah, no. Do you think Stannis and Jon will meet again in the books?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't see the reason for them to meet again. You know, how it helps the story in any way at all. But I do think that it's quite possible that Jon is going to be inside a ghost longer than it will be shown in the show.
Mm-hmm. It'd be cool, but I just don't see it. This is from T Baby. She says, "Do you think Stannis really thinks that Arya is Arya, or do you think he knows that she's a fake?" Jane Poole.
I think he has. I think he's going with it. That he thinks that it's Arya. I think that's he had to do the questioner. She passed the questions. I don't think he's 100% sold, but I think he's going with it that she is, and he's setting her right up there. Now, what happens to that chick when she reaches? Is she gonna get? What's gonna happen to her when she gets up there and Jon Snow sees her ass? She's got. I mean, they can't just keep her around, right? She's gonna die. She's got to die somehow up there. I don't know how, but she's got to die or get raped or something. I don't know. I don't even know.
When she gets up there, I mean, Jon's probably not going to be alive.
Yeah, Jon will be dead by the time she gets there.
So I don't know.
Jon. Then what happens with Justin Massey gets there, and he's going there with 8 troops. He's going there with. All right, 8 troops. He got 8 troops. And he has the Mormont chick, who's another fighter anyway. Alysanne. They may help kill the Night's Watch.
I don't know how that whole situation's going to go down. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's the whole situation. You got the wildlings there. You got them coming up, and then you got the Night's Watch. So, do the Night's Watch try to lie and say the wildlings killed Jon Snow, and have them attack them?
Very well possible.
You know, that's a way that it could jump off. Who knows? But that's such. He has a lot of loose ends, George R. R. Martin's, a lot of them that he has to tie up, and it's a lot of work he's got to do. He put a lot of things. So I'm hoping that he can bring it together in the end and have a really good story for the end. So far, so good, you know. But writing a book and writing the complete story, middle, beginning, ending. It's not as easy when you start getting towards the last couple of things, and you gotta start weaving stuff together to fit everything.
Do you even trust Justin Massey?
Well, that leads to a whole situation like that. So he's got money enough to buy 20,000 troops, and Stannis specifically says he wants bowmen too. Does Justin Massey hear that Stannis is dead and just takes the gold? Well, they may not make it back there. Now, I always thought that was the reason why Stannis was going to survive, because he's got that money. He's going to have those extra troops to come back him up. But we see that he dies. Maybe they don't even make it. Maybe they don't make it back to Bravos. Maybe they get killed at the wall, the banker and everyone with them. Maybe that, and he never gets his hands on that money. I always assume, but in the show, he gets the money.
He does.
And he hires the troops, and he goes to the war with them. So if he gets the dough, Justin Massey gets to Bravos with them, he gets the dough. Does he just skip out with the dough, Justin Massey? And if he does that, that's going to be a cheap ending. Justin Massey just takes the money and goes sails off with the dough and a couple of chicks, and he's gone.
I'm just saying, he might hole up in Pentos, get himself a mansion, get some serving girls,
Get himself a Black Pearl down there and just chill up in there and just not do nothing. It's possible, but that would be a cheap thing. If it goes out like that, George R. Martin has to come with more hotness than that. That would be cheap. But as I said, when you're doing the ending, it gets difficult because there's a lot of mouths to feed. A lot of people to please, a lot of people to try to write this. I hope he just does it for himself. And he ends it the way he wants it to end, and he doesn't try to say, all right, there's 92% Danny fans here, and there's blah blah percent John fans. So let me give them something. I don't give nobody nothing. Just do it the way you want it done, and get it done, and hopefully that's good enough. Because you can't be pleasing people, man. Yeah. Once you get into that situation, then that's when it's all fucked up.
All right, we got two questions that are pretty similar from the boy Wanda and LA87 Luna. Pretty much both asking what would be the purpose of a Stannis victory, like plot-wise.
In the books?
Yeah.
If Stannis wins, then Theon Greyjoy gets executed at the Wayward Tree. Yara Greyjoy, I don't know what happens to it, but he basically gets to take over Winterfell. I thought the whole plot, the way it was supposed to, the way I always thought it was going to happen, was that Stannis would win that battle. As I said, he Trojan horse his way over there, take Winterfell. By that time, Mandalay and Rickon would be coming back with Rickon. They would make their way back to Winterfell. Jon Snow would get resurrected. They get to Winterfell, and they all be held up there. The wall will come down. And then they would have they could say, hey, Stannis could be like, listen, we could hold the front right here. Jon, go down towards King's Landing, let everybody know what's going on. And they try to hold the wall right there. Obviously, they will get killed and everything else while Jon heads down to King's Landing and tries to get the help from the other lords down there. But it doesn't seem like it's going to go down like that.
Yeah, so that pretty much leads to the question, what do we actually think is going to happen in the Battle of Ice now, which we pretty much covered, that we're not exactly sure what's going to happen.
It's the way it looks. I think it looks, the way I see it is the way I think everyone else, a majority of people see it. I don't see how he loses from the situation they have him put in, from everything they've showed, everything that has been put out. The beacon light, everything else. It just seems like he has this one in the bag. And I don't see how he blows it. I really don't. If someone sees it, let me know.
I was just going to say, it's happened before in sports.
Yeah.
Team up by 4 touchdowns and blow it, it happens.
Listen, I could tell you, I'm a Jets fan. I could tell you a bunch of bad stories, so I really don't have many good stories to being a Jets fan. So I could tell you a bunch of times we were up and lost it. So, but I don't know. I don't see it. I just don't see how it's possible the man loses the Battle of Ice. I don't. Yeah. But it's quite possible that he does, because we see that he's dead in the show.
All right, we got a question from Jerry the Targaryen Steamboat. What's up, Jerry? Do you think Stannis kills Manderley before learning of Davos's mission?
Well,
It was, do you think Stannis kills Manderley before learning of Davos's mission?
yeah. Well, I'm not sure if Manderley is even going to survive the wounds she has from Holster Tully. All right. Does Manderley go with him? That fat dude, does he go with them on to fight Stannis? Is he there with them? Because that dude, his neck was sliced open pretty bad.
Yeah.
Are they carrying him on a gurney to the battle? Because that's what he'd have to go on, you know? So they're going to carry this dude in a carriage to the battle through all this snow. I don't know if he's there. Maybe his troops are just there and he's still held up in Winterfell. And he sent some of his force down there with them. Because I just don't know. I don't know if he survives that attack. But if he does survive that attack and Stannis gets a hold of him, if Rickon isn't present with Davos, yes, I think Stannis will kill him before learning that he was down with him.
And like you said, that could be a way that things get messed up.
Yeah.
Stannis attacking the Manderley force.
Without a doubt. So I think it's possible that he would, just the anger that you see that he has and that thing that he's like, he butchered my Onion Knight. That guy butchered him and he's upset about it. So without a doubt, I think he could just take him right out before finding out the truth.
So we got another question from a man, Don Willie. Said, do you think it's still possible for Stannis to sit the Iron Throne?
No, I don't see it. I really thought that he was. I even think that Melisandre said that she's seen him on the Iron Throne. I really thought that he would sit it at least for a second. At least just shine his ass on it. Just sweep across it or something like that. Nothing. I don't think he's gonna come even see it again. So no, and it's a shame. It's a shame, but no, not at all. I don't think he has a chance in it at all.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I just think, season 5 was like the most depressing season for a Stannis fan that we could have ever seen.
I felt something was in the water too when the season was starting. I kept saying, if he makes it through this season, then we good. But it is a good possibility that if he's not going to sit the Iron Throne, that they just get him out of there right now. And boop, they got him out of there. But the way they did it and the reason they did it was just disgusting. Just disgusting. Yeah. They could have gave the man a better due. I think it's really, it's hard to think that, these guys, they write shows and they really have personal vendettas against characters that they don't like, so they got to do. But, listen, I think these motherfuckers purposely said, I hate Stannis. Fuck that character. We're going to make him look bad. And they did what they did to make him look bad.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really like Dany, but I would have wrote her the same way that she was written in the books. I wouldn't have taken any liberties, but they sure, the show writer sure did.
Yeah. Well, it depends. I think I'm with you on that. I would have just left it alone. Well, it all depends if I hate how bad it was. Somebody like if it was fucking like Reggie Miller. And I was doing the Reggie Miller biography, and he was dead or something. If I could slide in there something to make him look bad, I think I'd do it. Because I hate Reggie Miller more than anybody on this planet. I hate Reggie Miller the most. Tom Brady is next. Or Reggie Miller #1. I hate that man. Hate him.
Damn. Cold-blooded. But yeah, screw him.
Can't stand him and Mark Jackson shaking his shoulders like he did something. Guy, Mark Jackson wouldn't have hit a shot all game. He had one shot at the end and shake his shoulders. That little motherfucker. I hate you too. I hate those two.
Man.
Yeah.
Right, we got T-Baby here. Will Bran defeat Bloodraven?
What do you think?
I think it depends on what Bloodraven truly is. Is he like what you said in your one previous video? Is he a bad dude?
He is.
Or is he really trying to save the realm? I think we just kind of gotta wait on that one and see how it all unfolds. But if he is, if he is the meta bad guy, sure, why not? I think Bran probably defeat him.
Yeah, it's quite, you start thinking about things when you look at the Melisandre chapter and you see her and she sees this dude. The first time she sees this dude, she's like, it's just the enemy. Is he the great other? And then the next time you see this dude, she starts seeing him and then she's like, well, he may not be the great other. He may just be the great other's champion, But both times she's associating this guy with the great other or the great other's champion, To me, as I said before, I believe that whether you want to call them evil or, just their side of it, if there's no good or evil, this on their side, I think that the children of the forest are on the sides of the White Walkers. Now, whether that's the evil side, if you want to say that the evil or not, that side, the side that we're led to believe is evil, I think that is the side that they are on. So I think there's no doubt that he's working with them. Now, whether that he is the great other himself, she says that he's not because, because his face would have to be scarier and stuff, and that's quite possibly the case. But, they said in that chapter, Melisandre doesn't get everything right. Maybe she's seen something. Who knows? Maybe that he is the champion for the Weirwood Tree great other. And then the White Walkers have their own type of person, the Night's King, and that's their champion. And there is no big other gods, Valor type situation. Maybe it's just him. It could just be. And then that's it. But they're definitely working together. And that's it. Who knows? They could be the side that's right in the end. They could be the good guys, if you want to look at it like that, when it's all said and done. They could be that, and Danny would have to be the bad guy then. But it all depends how you look at it, whose side is right and whose side is wrong. But I possibly do believe that the White Walkers, Jon Snow, Blood Raven, that's all one side, I think. But I think that he has to run with those dudes. They're going to take him over, and he'll be running with them when it's all said and done. The only thing that messes that up is the fact that Jon gets to dream about him cutting down the zombies from the top of the wall with the flaming sword. So he's actually fighting them, but that could be later on. But that's weird too, because he's on top of the wall, and I think the wall's coming down. You know what I mean? So I don't know when that's supposed to happen, but I think by the time he gets his flaming sword, the wall should be down. I think the wall comes down this season. I think in the leak thing that said that, I've always said that. I thought it came down this season. I think it drops this season in the show.
So do you still believe? I'll say, do you still believe that Danny is Jon's Nisa?
I would, all these things, everything that happens in this show, it makes you have to re-examine situations. I think the way the book is set up, that she's set up for that there, yes. But if they're going to go with, there has to be a good side and a bad side. And if you look at the Ice Dragon side, that story, they were the good guys, and the bad guys were the Fire Dragons. So if they go that way, there's no way she's got to be the evil person, And it's quite possible that Danny could be the evil person, because I don't see that chick, Danny, at all wanting someone to sit alongside of her and rule. And she's very stingy, Danny. You know what I mean? She's very mean. She does a lot of bad shit to people. People let slide, act like that. Oh no, she had to. Look, she took those masters. She hung those guys up, right? put them on the shit. She hung them up, killed all those dudes, no problem. She burned people with her dragons, fed people with her dragons. She fucking locked that Zaro duck sauce off with that chicken inside the vault. You know, she's done that's mean. That's mean to do to somebody. You know, that's not suffocation. That's someone eating somebody to death and then dying. That's terrible to do. But she gets the pass on doing a lot of things like that, Danny. So, but just from the fact that she is, you can see she's a Targaryen, that they're evil. They're not evil, but they have a craziness inside of them. She could lose her mind and say, no, I've gone through all this. Westeros is mine, and I'm not giving it to nobody. I got 3 dragons. What? I'm taking it, and that's it. And she could just start get down like that. Who knows? You know, maybe. But we shall see. But they got to fight, and one of them's got to be, someone's got to win and someone's got to lose. I think Jon Snow's rolling with them. I don't know if Jon Snow. You think Jon Snow is going to be riding one of Dany's dragons? I mean, you would think he has to, right? If that's the case, there's 3 dragons: Jon, Dany,
and Aegon. I don't know. See, I don't know how that's all going to turn out.
Aegon.
Like, who do you think would be the? Well, yeah, probably not Aegon. Who do you think the 3 would be? Tyrion? Do you think Tyrion's one, or?
No, that's terrible. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That would just be ridiculous. Why would you put, why would you put an ant on an elephant's back? it just makes no sense.
Yeah, see, I'm not, because her storyline could be, her relying on prophecy so much, and it drives almost all of her decisions. Maybe that could be what's turning her, she doesn't trust nobody because she thinks everyone's gonna betray her.
Well, and that's that stupid chick from Ashai is telling her not to trust nobody. And it's keeping her, telling her to be separate. She's the one putting that in her head. Don't trust this person. Don't trust that person. Don't trust nobody. Who says that chick is a good chick? Everyone thinks that chick is so good, and her intentions are so great. Why is her intentions so great? Well, why is that all of a sudden? She may not be so up. She may not be so. She may not be so wanting Dany to do the. Maybe she's trying to use Dany for her own situation, and it's not like that. So she may be up to something too. So anyone with those glass candles, you got to watch those dudes. They say that going into people's dreams is the power of the great other. So anybody who's got that great candle, doing that candle shit, got to watch those people, man. Those people up to something.
Yeah. So we got a question from Helen May. Will Justin Massey be the way that Arya gets back to Westeros?
Hello, Helen May. I would, that's very plausible. I would hope so. That's a good way for her to get back. It seems that should be the way that she comes back. Would be Justin Massey. That would be the ideal way for her to get that. But that means Justin Massey would have to get the money and the troops. 30,000. That's a lot of men. So Stannis is dead. What's going on with these 30,000 troops? What do they do? And Shireen's supposed to avenge Shireen. Shireen's dead. He's gonna die too, because we see Stannis die. Shireen's dead. He's got 30,000 troops. All these bowmen, which he just joined up with Jon, and they told him to come into Each Watch by the bay is the way they're supposed to come in by, over there, with the troops. So
they could, maybe they see Jon's resurrection or something, and they're like, well, we'll roll with this guy, I guess.
Is that you think would happen? You think they come in, they go out. They come in by East Watch with the bay. They got Arya on board ship. Arya comes back. This Jon's dead the whole time. This chick's playing herself off that she's Arya. Arya really comes back with Justin Massey, sees this chick pretending to be her, chops her the fuck up, stabs her up. Jon comes back. He takes those 30,000 troops, and then he goes marching down to Winterfell and then defeats the Boltons then.
They could. Now, one thing I would say is, with Stannis already dead and that whole situation not even going to happen in the show, obviously that's not going to be the way that Arya is going to come back in the show. How's that going to correlate to the books? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, in the show, we have no idea. There's no justice.
I mean,
in the show, I think she's gonna come back with Tyrell.
Yeah.
You know, she'll probably come back with him in the show. That's how she'll get back over there. I don't think it's gonna be an issue to get her back to Westeros. It's not gonna be like this big. How do I get back? I ain't got no money. I can't find my way. She's getting back. I think she's a faceless man. She's gonna get on the ship, whatever ship it's gonna be. She's gonna get on it, and she's gonna get back to Westeros. No problem. I don't think it's gonna be an issue. It's just weird that she wind up right off the bat when she gets there, and what's going on there, you know. But I don't think it's gonna be an issue like it's an issue to get Dany to Westeros, which takes fucking forever. And this chick to get her anywhere. So I don't think it's a problem at all.
Now I got some questions, like personal questions for me. So, like, do you believe in Yoke? You know, we know Yoke Boy. He wrote a theory about how Mel equals Shira Steestar and Bloodraven. That she's the daughter of those two. Do you put any credence into that?
That Mel is Shira Steestar?
No, the Mel is the daughter of Shira Steestar and Bloodraven.
I think that whole theory it goes by the heart-shaped head. I think that's what hinges that theory together, the shape of someone's face. That's a little that thread is too thin for me to walk on. That one, because that's basically the one thing that holds it all together. Everything else is circumstantial, you know. The whole situation with her, Melanie. I mean, they're saying that Bloodraven had a baby with this chick, and then they had to put the chick up for adoption, and she became a slave to a shot. I mean,
I thought it was something like they escaped to Essos and they got captured or something, and then they were sold into slavery.
Yeah, it's plausible, and I'm not saying that it can't be. But the fact that it mostly hinges on the heart-shaped face, I think it sounds good. I don't know. I don't know if that's why Bloodraven's trying to expose her at that time. Because at that particular time when he's talking, Bloodraven sees it, he takes her out of this Melisandre form and puts her in the form that she's normally in, her normal image. So I would think that would be older than what she is right now. And from what they say that she's supposed to, from what they said about Melisandre, she's like hundreds and hundreds of years old, right?
Right.
And that Shira Steestar wouldn't be hundreds and hundreds of years old, right?
Right.
So that's for that reason, I would think that it's possible that she probably isn't that. She's probably somebody else from back in the day. If it's anyways 100 years old, it's someone from back. It'd be more likely that she's that chick, that, you know, not the daughter, just the actual chick herself. It'd be. And
then there's the how George has told his actors certain things or whatever, and then there was a thing where the Clarice Van Houten, the actress that plays Mel, I guess she told someone that her character was like 200, 300 years old.
Yeah, so she's 200-300 years old, and this can't be that. And I think because he exposes her, Bloodraven, for who she is at that particular time, like takes her glamour off her. All right, and then she gets back control of it and gets her glamour back on. So I think the only reason for her to glamour herself is if she's extremely that much older than what she normally would be. The Shira Steestar, I just don't think she'd be old enough to fit the 100-year bill. So for that reason, I would have to say that it wouldn't go. But I think Yoke Boy was right with the lemon tree situation. I think that was 100% correct with the Dany situation. But I can't get behind the Shira Steestar one. But it's a great idea.
Now I would say to know about Quaith's motivations, we should probably know who she is. So who do you think Quaith's actual identity is?
I've gone around and around and around with that, you know. I'm gonna say if it's anyone, if I have to put it on somebody, I'm gonna say that it has to be a sure Dane. Oh, it would have to be. I have to think that she has to be there. I don't think she killed herself at all. I don't think so. I think the fact that she's associated, Quaithe is associated with stars all the time. I think it's that's what it is. I think that if it's anyone, I think it's possibly her. Who do you think it is?
I think it's either. See, I think it's either Ashara Dane or it's. I mean, possibly Shira Sea Star. I'd have to go relook at all the theories and stuff. But those were the two in my mind that I thought that they were, who she could be. I believe because she's Shira Sea Star because of her eyes. I believe there was something doing with Quaithe with her eyes, but it's been a while since I looked at all that stuff. I'd have to reread it, but I believe I narrowed it down to those two. So my question would be, if it's Ashara Dane, what would be her motivation with Dany? Like, would she be helping her, or?
The whole Dane family's connection is the Azor Ahai connection.
That's right.
So if she's on that Dany is Azor Ahai shit, and she thinks that Dany's Azor Ahai like these other people think that she is, then she's gonna want to steer her the right way,
Mm-hmm.
And so or the way that she wants her to react. It looks obviously she's trying to control her in her own way. You know what I mean? She's trying to tell her what to do and tell her who to talk to, who not to talk to, and who to do this and do. Listen to me. Listen. That's what she's basically saying. Listen, the lion, the griffin, don't listen to none of these people. Just listen to me. All right. Don't worry about anybody else in this whole planet.
Mm-hmm.
I got your back. What I'm telling you is true. That's what she's telling this chick. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that she's like, nobody's down with you. I'm the only one who's your friend in this whole world.
Right. And like, with the lion, the Mummer's dragon, and the sun's son.
Mm-hmm.
Her hearing that probably led to her, rejecting Quentin and not getting the Martells on her side. So it's like, I don't know if she's like saying that. Does that really help her?
Yeah, I'd say this chick can have her own motivation. Look at her family story. Her brother was murdered by the Starks, right? Got killed. She gets the sword back. Woo, that's what you did for me, Ned Stark. You helped me out. You give me a fucking sword. Killed my brother. Give me thanks a lot, buddy, for returning my fucking family sword. Killed my brother, but hey. But it seems like, somehow, some way they became friends. She got this nephew named Ned, and then she has some type of baby, miscarries supposedly, and now she just jumps off the building because of the grief. It's just a bullshit story, come on, she's jumping off everything because of the grief, I just don't see it. It's not happening like that. It's no way it's going down like that.
No, I definitely think she's turning up somewhere.
Yeah, so she could want revenge for herself. She could want those dragons for herself. And she could be the one wanting to go down. I mean, who would she be down with? She would be down with Dornish people and stuff like that. She'd be down with them if it all came down to it. The Danes, I mean, she have them and come take the throne. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. But I just know that it may not be as nice as everyone thinks that Quaithe is. She may not be so nice, because when you try to isolate people, that's never a good thing. In any aspect of life. Anytime you have a boyfriend who has a girlfriend and he tells her, listen, you ain't got no friends, only me. Don't talk to that chick, just talk to me. You ain't allowed to have, no, you ain't going out tonight, you chilling with me. And you know what that is. You know what that's bad news. And that's what this chick is trying to pull. So, who knows? It doesn't seem like it's a good situation.
This is the last question that I see here from Tony Toka.
Tony Toka.
Will they have to melt down the throne to fight the White Walkers?
All right. So I guess this is a theory. Who said this? I heard that the guy who played Loras Tyrell.
Yeah.
I heard him say this. That when they did the thing in New York, the Game of Thrones in New York video, he said that he thinks that they have to melt down the Iron Throne, pull the swords out, and that's how they're going to fight the White Walkers with them. So I guess the philosophy would be that since they're regular swords, we know that, but because Valyrian the Blackjet blew his fire on them, they became Valyrian steel. I don't know. I don't think that would be a good enough reason for it to become Valyrian steel just because he blew his fire on it that one time. I think Valyrian steel takes a lot more magic that has to get put into it too. So I understand when people want to say, oh, but I don't think those swords are Valyrian steel. So I don't think the swords are going to come into play when it comes first to White Walkers. I think the White Walkers, the whole thing is, I think they're going to take over everything except for Dorne and Dragonstone. And I think that's where the last stands will be held. It'll be held in Dorne, the last stand, and the other last stand will be held on Dragonstone. And I think that's where they'll finally get defeated. But I think the White Walkers will take over everything else.
And if they're going to do it, well, they better get started, because I don't imagine that's going to be, you know, a quick thing. All them swords you got, you only like 3 people can manipulate Valyrian steel in the world. I mean, you know.
Yeah. No, I think you got your Valyrian steel swords. You got the ones they got. Maybe you may get a couple back. I mean, Blood Raven sword. That sword will come back. You know, you got the ice. The Lannister swords. I don't think those swords can be held on by the Lannisters forever. I think it has to go back to House Stark eventually. Both those swords. So I think maybe one will go to Rickon, and does Arya get the other one? You know, does it go that way? And then Blood Raven, his sword, who gets that sword? Does Jon keep Longclaw? He's got to get rid of Longclaw. Who's that go back to? Does he give that to the Mormont? Does he give that to Alysanne Mormont when she's at the wall? Does he give her Longclaw back right then? And then he gets Lightbringer from that, and then now she has her family sword. I mean, she would be the only one that should have it, you know. So a lot of swords got to pass. There's a lot of thread this man has to clear up and stuff. A lot of loose ends. The thing I just hope he can get through it. I'm sure he can. I got 100% confidence. Oh, you know, I'm like Mari, 99.9% chance that he had confidence in him, that he can get, that he'll make it pleasing to everybody that it needs to be pleasing to, without trying to please everybody.
So do you think that Bright Roar is ever found?
Yeah, I don't even know if the Lannisters will be alive, any of them, when this whole thing is over, that it would matter for Bright Roar to be found. You know, I think I was thinking about too, about, you know, I always thought that the Jaime and them are definitely the Mad King's children. I always thought it was something going down like that. And people want Tyrion to be that situation. But what about that damn that Jaron Lannister? Where was he when Tyrion was conceived? Where the hell was that motherfucker? Because when you look at that guy, was he known as the Laughing Lion, right? Everyone liked him. He laughed a lot and everything else. When you hear about Tywin Lannister, you hear about Tyrion. He loved Tyrion a lot. You know, he always played with Tyrion. He was their favorite uncle. You know, they all loved him. Usually these favorite uncles fuck the mother. That's what usually happens. You know, because that's why they're always around the favorite uncle, because the favorite uncle's fucking the mother. That's what usually goes down. So yeah, it could be a situation like that. I mean, Tyrion does all these flips. He does these little cartwheels. You have that lady in the crypt saying that, you know, Tywin didn't want his kids to be laughed at and anything else. This guy's known as the Laughing Lion. Maybe that's not Tywin's kid either. Maybe that this guy was fucking her too. Maybe she was fucking everybody. Who knows?
Damn. She was like the neighborhood bicycle, man.
It could happen, man. It happened, man. It happens, especially in a world like that. But nah, listen, when you hear favorite uncle, listen, that means uncle's fucking the mom. So if that's going on in your family right now, let me tell you, I'm telling you straight up, that's what it means, man. Because the uncle's around too much. The uncle don't care that much. What's he around for so much? You know, he's around too much. That's not his sister. He don't need to be around that much. Why is he there all the time?
So do you think it's like, have you ever heard like Jerian is like the Shrouded Lord and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've heard that he could be. That's a good possibility. He could be. That's why I think it could all come back. If they're gonna bring him back for that, why not bring him back to be one of these people's fathers? Yeah. Why not? You know, and make Tywin Lannister sterile, and he couldn't have no kids altogether at all.
Yeah. Let's see.
You got one more. For if you got one more. We can wrap this up.
All right. It's from Jared Targaryen Steamboat. Is it possible for Euron to do something, or for some Euron to do something that news reaches Stannis that makes him change his mind to spare Theon in effort to redo the King's Moot? Like Stannis believes Euron is just.
I just don't see how he's going to get something to him, Euron. How is it possible that he's going to reach him in time? This battle's going to happen, within a day. What did you say? Bolton's at least was 3 days right out the longest when that Winds of Winter. I mean, the Dance of Dragons chapter, and they got the letter of the map. Bruce Bolton says Stannis is 3 days away. So knowing that this Winds of Winter chapter happens in the Dance of Dragons book, he may have already headed out. They could already been a day march by the time we're seeing this chapter. So they could only be 2 days away or 1 day away. And if that's the case, then there'd be no time for Euron to get anything to him. And why would Euron want to spare Theon anyway? He don't want to spare Theon at all. You know what I mean? He don't give a fuck about Theon or any of them. So I do not believe he wants to spare him in any way for anything.
And I mean, Euron, I would imagine, doesn't even want Theon alive. It ruins, it kind of interferes with his claim a little bit, Yeah. He just wants him out of the picture, I think. 100%.
He's not interested in any of those, Theon or his sister or any of them people being alive. He does not care whatsoever about them being around. It's just all about him.
Yep.
And that's what's up. So that was our take on the Theon sample Winds of Winter chapter. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it and stuff like that and all that. Now I'm back to saying stuff like that again. Oh my God. Well, I hope y'all got got something from it. You know what I mean? And enjoyed it. My man, 50 grand, my man, Big James from Queens, New York, just like me. Tell people where they can find you.
All you gotta do is put my name in. It's the name of my channel, James Buschell. Just copy it from the title of this video. And I do Game of Thrones videos, Song of Ice and Fire videos. And I was inspired partly by Tony to make videos. So, like I said, for me, it's been a great honor to even be in a video with Tony. And I'm just happy that I was able to do this.
The honor is all mine. As I said, James is one dude who supported my channel from no subscribers all the way up, you know what I mean, to where we are right now. So it's just an honor to even talk to you. And thank you for supporting me all these years. I really do. I'm blessed to have fans and subscribers like you and everybody else out there. So please subscribe to James's channel. Subscribe to my channel. You know what to do if you like this. Please thumbs up it. Spread this across the realm. Tell your people about me. And make sure you watch. You got the History of Westeros. They got their live stream question and answer. Then you have the Clash of Queens question and answer. Right after that or right before that. I know it's like 1 day before, 1 day after. So back-to-back question and answers on that. So we are loaded. We're rich, great. A Song of Ice and Fire content. So support all the channels. Support all the people. And until next time, people, you know who it is. It's the Don, baby. Peace. And stay sexy.